Hey everyone, Blockchain Bernie here, the latest AMA. Ask Me Anything after our rebranding to Xandeum. So I hope you guys all like the name. I got so many comments on the last video with the unveiling, and everyone liked the logo. They all said they like the old Bitoku logo. We did the rebranding because we had more issues with the name Bitoku than we thought. We cannot get the .com domain, and having the .com domain is so important these days. And we have the Xandeum.com. That's awesome. We have that. We have that brand name. It was also more difficult than we thought getting on top of the Bitoku board game. It seems to be super popular. So now when you Google Xandeum, we're right there. So yeah, that's all there. So now let's dive into the AMA. All right. So everyone's here. What are your questions, guys? I'm here. This is an AMA. I don't want to talk all the time. So what are your questions regarding the new roadmap? We have that new roadmap, right? So the DAO is coming out. We are going to have the white paper soon with an RFC, request for comments. So we give it out to all you guys and to the blockchain community and all the Solana guys that we know very well from running our Solana validator. That is exciting stuff, right? The DevNet will launch, later this year in the fall. We might even have an incentivized DevNet. So if any one of you wants to run a DevNet node, they get extra rewards for that, right? Even though it's not the real Xandeum yet, right? It's only the DevNet that helps us, test out things while we develop everything. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so hi Bernie, first thanks for the channel. That's awesome. So now I have an issue here with, I put my window with the questions on the big monitor, but that's a little bit far away, so I can't read it. So let's do this here. Thank you for this channel. Solana source. First question regarding liquid staking, Solana Marinade. How much APY can we make? So with Solana liquid staking on Marinade, it's about 6.7%. And I had that video about directed stake, right? So you can do liquid staking on Marinade, but still direct it to go to the Bitoku validator. We're one of the top performing validators on Stakewiz. We've been #1 for many weeks, if not months now. And also on the Marinade dashboard, we're among the top 3 all the time. So don't forget to do the directed stake to the Bitoku validator. And for every sol you stake there, directed stake, Marinade will stake 4 sol to our Bitoku validator. So that's awesome. Can you already say something about the necessary technology that is required? Yeah, for the DevNet, it's gonna be low requirements, right? So it can be like a 4 or 5 year old laptop, or there's some of these little devices like desktop devices, for example, an Ansel. You could use an Ansel to run a DevNet validator on there. So we are keeping the requirements low, even though, since we decided to have a fork of Solana, and Solana has quite high requirements, and later in mainnet, the requirements might go up, but we're working on keeping them on the low side just to get things started. And definitely for the DevNet, we will be going with quite low requirements. The most important thing, though, is RAM, is memory, and the most RAM we need both for the ledger, so how much history do we want to keep in the ledger? And the second thing is the Solana account. So since both of these are not high requirements on DevNet, we can probably get along with like a 16 gig machine, maybe a 32 gig machine. So it's quite regular hardware that we can go with. Then Guy, hey, could you discuss the Xandeum Preferred Club and when we need to stake the 1.5K Zand. Yeah, so thanks for that. The Xandeum Preferred Club, we have the new light paper. It's Xandeum branded now. You probably found it on the Xandeum website. That's awesome. And yeah, the Preferred Club will come out somewhere. We'll put it on the timeline, right, on the roadmap. It's not on there yet, but it's going to be well before July 30th. So a few weeks before, 3-4 weeks before that deadline. We will have the Xandeum Preferred Club, and that'll entitle you to the benefits and some staking and probably also some extra DAO rights. And with all these things, we are discussing these like crazy. So we're together with, a bunch of really experienced people in the Solana DAO field and all these things. It's super exciting to talk with them, and we bought a consulting package from them. And we're hammering out all the details, right? So one of the things is like having an incentivized DevNet. That would be super fantastic, right? Just earning extra stuff by running a validator node on the DevNet, which will come out really, really soon. Then other things are all the DAO and the lockup of the tokens, staking of the tokens, maybe some extra NFTs or things like that. And it's all being discussed right now, right? And we will decide about that in the next few weeks. And yeah, the Xandeum Preferred Club will definitely come. And, people have already asked me about the Bitoku Preferred Club because it was in the light paper from the very first day. And now that we have all our bugs fixed in the original node store, and we're almost done with testing, so now we can focus again on all these things that are interesting for you guys. What you can actually do with it. Can you stake? Can you get rewards here and there? What will be the exact offer on the launch day on July 30th, right? It would be so boring to just say, okay, we fixed all the bugs and we have a new name, but you want to have some extra rewards if you do something on that special day. And that could be the incentivized DevNet. It could be some other DAO things. It could be some DevNet thing, some staking things. And I'm so happy that, we're not thinking about these things among ourselves, but we have the very experienced people that have done DAOs before, that have set up these staking things. And we're also always thinking about that listing, right? And so many people ask me that, when can we have the Zand token listed and things like that. We're thinking about so many things. We just don't want to make a mistake there, right? We just don't want that token to tank and then be out of everything, and nobody wants that, and definitely not you. And yeah, that's why we're asking the experts that have done these things before. Cool. So next question, Alan. Do you know how soon we might know what the equipment requirements might be? We will know exactly short before the Xandeum launch. And I already said a few things about that. I think that would be fine, right? So if you have like a quad-core machine with, a recent processor that's, like, even if it's like an Atom or so with 1 point something gigahertz or so, even that should do it, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe it needs to be like 2 or so. That's still a 4 or 5 year old processor. And if you have 16 or 32 gigs of RAM, I mean, that's I think that's probably all we need to know at this point in time, right? It is just consumer grade hardware. You don't have to purchase a server for $5,000, as we have to do in the Solana chain, right? And if you want to be a top performing validator, as we are, right, you need 2 servers to do the switching when you upgrade, and each of them is like $8,000, right? So that's quite an investment. And we definitely want to do it with consumer grade hardware. I'm not sure if it stays like that forever when we go into mainnet, but the next 12 months or so, when we're just building up things, we want to have low requirements consumer grade hardware. And like if we start the DevNet in October or so, like 3-4 weeks before that, we will give the exact requirements, right? All right. Hey, and greetings from Michael. Hey, Michael. And yeah, you meant Zand. Yeah, I figured that. Alan, speaking of Ansel, is it possible to buy an Ansel system without the Ant-Man software? Well, this is a Xandeum AMA, right? But I called it AMA, so fair enough. You can ask me anything. Yes, it is. Just email sales@ansel.com and we can discuss it there. Wonders of the world, when the time comes that a node can run, there will surely be a step-by-step guide. Absolutely, yeah. So we discussed that in a meeting even this morning. So we want to have that whole thing approachable, right? Because running a Solana validator is no simple feat, right? It requires some knowledge in so many things, and it's not easy, right? But we want to have it approachable, accessible, like for example a Helium node or stuff like that. So there will be a step-by-step guide and maybe even some tools where you can do it at the click of a button, right? That's our goal. And bear with us if it's not like that from day one, right? But that's definitely our goal, because the whole thing is about mass adoption, right? And we will have millions of storage provider nodes, as I keep repeating, right? And these need to be super simple, right? There's not millions of Linux command line experts out there in the world, right? So it has to be super simple, and also on the validator side, it has to be super simple, and we're working on that. And also on the development side, right? Because we can only grow and become mass adopted, right? And become what our goal is, become the platform of choice for real Web3, where all the Web 2 apps that are out there today, right? And the Airbnbs, the eBays, the Twitters, the Facebooks of this world get rebuilt on the blockchain, right? And that can only happen with a real storage layer for smart contracts. That's not there right now, and that's why we're building that. And I keep repeating, I'm so excited to work on this stuff. If I could just choose what problem do I want to solve and what do I want to work on, it would be that. And it has to be solved because humanity needs it. And that's why we're doing it. And in order to achieve that goal and have that mass adoption, it has to be simple, period, right? So that's what we're working on. It's not going to be happening overnight, but it's going to happen fast. I promise you that. And if it's somewhere not as simple as you would like it, just let me know on the Discord. And by the way, the Discord will stay the same. We will rename it to like a Xandeum/Bitoku Discord, and we will have channels there for Xandeum, but we will also have the Bitoku channel for our Bitoku Solana validator, right? That because we keep that brand name for our Solana validator. All right, so modest question, does the operating system matter? It does, yeah. I think, most probably the validator client will run under Linux first, right? There might be a Windows version in the future somehow. And more likely, there might also be a macOS version, because macOS is a Unix, right? Just as a Linux. And there might be a Windows version in the future, but for now, everything's going to be developed under Linux, and all our first versions will be Linux. That doesn't mean you can't use Windows, right? You can use Windows, and there's that WSL, Windows subsystem for Linux. So especially if you're on Windows 11, there's WSL2 included in it, and you can run it on that one as well. All right. Felix, good to see you again. In the US, it is looking pretty dire for altcoins right now. Yeah. And it's, it's looking pretty dire everywhere because, when the prices go down, they go down worldwide, right? What are your thoughts on that and Zand? Well, my thoughts are, I have some thoughts on what to do with Gary Gensler, but it's not something that I can say in this video. Just kidding. Um, you know, I don't know what's going on there with these lawsuits that are coming out, and the craziest thing to me is, without making this a political thing here, and the craziest thing is, who's the victim there? If there's staking offered on Coinbase or on Binance or stuff like that, and we haven't properly registered it with the SEC or stuff, yeah, I don't know what to say, right? And that guy doesn't even own any crypto at all, right? And then he's doing stuff, without there being victims, right? It might be, someone thought like, oh, I was being scammed and then I sue that company. That's fine, right? But that guy, man, doesn't he have real things to do? I'm not sure. Anyway, I think that is also temporary, right? My personal belief, right? There's some fights going on between the SEC and some of these exchanges, and it's all about centralized exchanges in the end, right? It's not about, staking that we do directly on Solana directly to a validator. It's not about, liquid staking and Marinade and everything is not part of that lawsuit. So it's kind of FUD, right? There are some lawsuits going on, however they might end, or and they are not against any of the platforms that I mentioned. They are, as far as I can see, against those centralized exchanges, and I wouldn't work much with centralized exchanges anyway. I just use them for on-ramp and off-ramp. And right now that we have a Circle account, right? So Circle is the issuer of USDC. So I have an account with Circle, and I use Circle for on-ramp, off-ramp, right? I just wire them money, they mint me USDC, and I can, swap my USDC into anything I want. So I don't even need those centralized exchanges anymore. And yeah, I think prices went down in an overreaction, and it's going to go away. The potential in the future is just too great. And as I keep reiterating, it's an experiment that humanity wants to make and will make, the whole Web3 thing. And it's just going to happen, and it's going to play out, and, prices will be in areas that we can't even think of today. That's my personal opinion. All right. So, Michael, is it right that every Oku token? So what happens now, when I look down and read here instead of there, I couldn't see it there. It was too far away. If I read here, the camera doesn't see my eyes, and it focuses on my eyes. So when I look down, it probably focuses on the microphone. Just don't get distracted from that. As soon as I look back in the camera, I should be back in focus. All right, Michael, is it right that every Oku token will be changed to Zand token? Yeah, changed. I'm not sure if changed is the right word. You will keep your Oku tokens, right? There's no way we can take them away from you, right? But the Oku token was supposed to be the native currency of our blockchain, and the currency that pays for storage and all these type of things. And we're just abandoning that, right? So the Oku tokens stay there. Maybe they even keep some value or some commemorative value or stuff like that. But what we're going to do is we mint you Zand tokens based on the nodes that you bought, right? So we have all the history of your node purchases on the blockchain, right? So we know, okay, you, the person with this and that wallet address, bought whatever, 2 platinum nodes on this date, on that time, by the second, right? And then you bought maybe 3 founders nodes at this and that date and this and that time. And we have all that history on the blockchain. And we have the history when others bought nodes, right? And why is that important? You buy some nodes, you earn like this and that many tokens a second, but then other people buy nodes and you have to share your rewards with them as well. And this can all change so frequently, especially in the times when we had launches. You know, we had so many purchases in just a few seconds. So that is all the math that we will do, and that's where we had these nasty bugs in there. And I can only apologize for that. Of course, I take full responsibility for that, but I also take full responsibility for, you know, making a plan to get it fixed, and then to get it fixed together with Abi and Kaveen. Thanks again to both of them, and to Brad, who has helped tremendously in testing. And we're there now, and you will just start with 0 Xand tokens, right? So when you go to the node store after July 30th, you will have 0 Xand, right? And then you go there and collect, and the collect will be renamed to Harvest, right? It's going to be called Harvest just to be in line with all the other DeFi platforms. Most of them call it Harvest also. And also Harvest has a little bit of that connotation that, you know, your grass is growing, your rewards are growing, even if you're not there, right? And then at some point, and they grow whatever, you know, 1 millimeter an hour or so. And at some point you come and harvest, and you just cut it off and take it in your wallet when you claim it, right? So there's going to be that harvest button. You're starting with 0 Xand, and then you're going to be harvesting all your Xand rewards. And we will just forget about these Oku tokens. It's not that you change them, right? It's not you give us your Oku and we give you Xand. That's not how it works. You keep all your Oku, but we don't use Oku anymore. And we will change the logo of the Oku token in your wallet, right? So it'll be grayed out, and there will be a strike through, and the text will say, okay, this is the old Oku token. It's now Xand. Please go to Node Store and get your Xand tokens, right? And that's how it works. And then you harvest all your Xand tokens, and you have the full history of when you bought nodes, when others bought nodes, with how many you have to share, and you see it all traceable, right? So if anyone thinks, oh, this might not be the correct amount of rewards that I have according to the light paper, you have that table, right, in Node Store, and you can track it one by one, whether the rewards are correct or not. And that was just so all important to me, right? We cannot move on with bugs in that, you know, very basic thing. We want the rewards to work correctly, and also we want to have that cap in the max supply correctly, right? There is 4.015 billion Xand tokens ever minted, right? And it can never be more. And that's so super important to me, because it's like that cap in Bitcoin with 21 million, right? For us, it's like 4.015 billion, right? So that's like 200 times, right? So if we say Bitcoin is at 15K, right? Divide that by 200. So that is like a large number per Xand token. That would be a possible maximum at some point in the future, right? So yeah, that's how it works. I hope the explanation was clear. Then Kirk, originally Bitoku seemed flexible, as you will be able to offer a storage layer for different channels, for different chains. Do you lose some flexibility by providing your own layer 1 solution? Kirk, that's a great question, and I had I think a very similar question by a guy named bcrypto on our Discord, and I answered it there already. We do lose some flexibility. That is definitely true, and it's a trade-off, right? And you know, the other things is, you know, flexibility, working with other chains. That's one important thing. And then there's other things like how easy it is to get adopted, right? And since we are only an infrastructure layer in the bottom, right? We're not attracting end users, right? We need to find startups that build Web3 dApps, and we call them now ET.CET apps, right? Storage-enabled decentralized apps, the ET.CET apps. And we need to find startups that build these Web3 apps, aka set apps, right, on top of Xandeum. And it has to be easy for them, right? And I think in the beginning for us, right, it's on a little bit on the timeline, right? In the beginning, it's not so much, we want to find products or Web3 apps that are now building on Ethereum or on Avalanche and get them over to Xandeum, because that is a tough call with us as a startup, and then with us having that storage layer, but they have already built out their app, right? It would be tough for them to kind of rebuild their whole app, and they're already live, right? So it will be, in the beginning, it'll be way, way easier for us to get startups that start from scratch, right? Someone that has an idea. They want to build an Airbnb that's built completely on the blockchain. They want to build an eBay or whatever the solution is, right? Some Web3 decentralized app that needs storage and needs large amounts of storage, right? So once they start from scratch, it is important for us that it's simple for them to get started, right? That they are not overwhelmed with, oh, now I need to learn Xandeum, but then Xandeum is built on Solana, so I need to learn Solana as well. And then they go to the Solana Discord as well. And then in the Solana Discord, they maybe hear about other storage stuff. And there is, for example, that shadow drive in Solana, which is also a storage layer, but it's centralized control. It's not real Web3, right? So, and we feel in the beginning, it is super important that we have everything under control, that we can onboard these developers, these startups as soon as possible and gain traction. And once we're there, then we can, diversify and support other chains and be a layer for other chains as well. But in the beginning, I just feel from a trade-off perspective, it's not our main priority, right? It's just with many startups, you get the advice from smart people, don't internationalize from day one. If you're a startup and you have a new product, just conquer your home market first and be the market leader in whatever country you're starting in, right? And then once you're considered the market leader, then you can, go into different geographies. And I think that's a little bit of analogous to what we're doing here, right? We want to first lead and have many startups that actually use it and that have the least friction, right? And then once we're there, then we can, support, just not only do our own L1, which is built into the whole chain, but, connect it with all the other L1s out there. So it's not like we're never going to do it. We just don't feel it's a priority now. It adds a lot of complexity. It slows us down. It adds risk. That can we really win over startups and developers that do this stuff, right? So, yeah, it's just a trade-off. And read it in Discord. I answered it there as well. Okay, everything's okay with the focus. Thank you. Circle just announced that they're selling all customers' altcoins into BTC and ETH. That's kind of scary. Hope there's a regulated future for altcoins before on-ramps and maybe even DEXs get targeted. Yeah, I haven't heard of that, so I can't really talk about that. Let's put it that way. It would be new to me that Circle even owns some altcoins. I mean, for me, all that Circle does, and I have that Circle account, right? And I know all their stuff. So all they have is USDC and US dollars, and they swap between the two. It would be completely new to me that they have customers' altcoins. No. Okay, but anyway, maybe I'm not up to date with news. Verena, the focus is absolutely fine while you're reading. Okay, that's fine. I just had some guys that said, okay, when I'm looking down and the eyes are not there, then it focuses on the mic sometimes. But if it's fine, that's fine. Thanks for the feedback, Verena. Michael, okay, thank you. Great. Hello, DeFi guy, and makes sense. Thanks. Also look at the Discord. Barry, hey Bernie, do you know anything about the development of Web 4? And if so, how might it affect us? I've heard of Web 4, and that has been a theme, and I'm in technology for many, many years, right? And decades. So when Web 2 came out, right? So that was like, Web 1 was just companies had web pages and it was a one-way street, right? It was like a brochure of their products, but you put it online, right? That was Web 1. And then Web 2 was user-generated content, right? And it started with some of these things, right? And then people were talking about Web 3, right? In 2000, I don't know, 2 or stuff like that, right? And it's always a tendency there. Web 3 isn't even a reality. And there is not even a generally accepted definition of Web 3, right? So anyone that now comes up and says Web 4, without knowing the details where you found it, right? I would just say, okay, that's one of those guys that, wants to surf on that wave of, Web 3 and stuff like that, and just coming out with Web 4. I don't think Web 4 is anything that I would take serious personally at this point in time, because we need, frankly, the next 10 years to build Web 3, right? And then after that, we can do Web 4. And yeah, some people just want to sound cool and make some publicity. That's what I would say, unless, I've overlooked something. All right. Yeah, that seems to be it. So 40 minutes in. Thank you guys so much for all the engagement, as always. Sorry for the hiccup in the beginning without the audio. And yeah, if there's no other questions, which don't seem to be, then yeah, excited to, work on our roadmap. And now we finally have that roadmap again after months and months of fixing these bugs, right? And it was so exhausting, not only for you guys patiently waiting, and man, thank you for patiently waiting, right? So there was literally no one that said, hey, what's going on? And is this a rug pull and blah, 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 right? And I'm so happy for this super supportive community that we have here. And super excited for, all the next milestones that are now coming, one after the other. So it's going to be super exciting times. It's a little bit sad that we have this kind of dire period for altcoins, as you mentioned, Felix. But I tend to just ignore it. What can we do, right? It's we need to build this stuff, right? And we need to be unfazed of market ups and downs and FUDs that are there and all this type of thing, right? And that's also why I personally would love to delay the listing of our tokens still a little bit, because that adds another layer of stuff that we have to take care of. Then suddenly it's our token that tanks when the SEC says something or stuff like that, right? And that just distracts us, right? And we will have keep an eye on the Xandeum website. There's a careers page, so there will be the job postings any day now. I know I've been talking about this for a long time also, but we're definitely working on that. And yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching again, and catch you guys later. Bye.